Hello everyone, my name is Jessica. These are my group members, Leo and Peter. Today we are going to talk about economic migration and Brexit. We will introduce it in three parts: economic migration, youth, employment, and Brexit. First of all, how does EU affect migration? Migration in Europe is stimulated by the freedom of movement granted by the EU. There are several types of migrations, such as skill migrations, support migrations, and economic migrations. This presentation will focus on the economic migration. The migration increases the movement of workers across boundaries. For example, EU workers will be much easier to be selected due to the convenience of visa and also policy between two countries. However, the migration has led a competition for job vacancy between the migrants and the indigenous workers. Therefore, it's caused the Brexit that British people proposed to leave EU, which we will talk about afterwards. Now I will introduce the economic migration. According to McKinsey and Ford, economic migration was granted by the EU legislation to meet the shortage of employees in a range of jobs in the labor market. And the principle of the Lisbon strategy is creating more and better jobs. It was set up by the European Union Council in Lisbon in March 2000. However, the reality is those migration are more likely to be given position in lower paying jobs. The migration also filling the job that indigenous workers have refused to take. Because of the shortage of laborers and lower wages, employers are attracted to migrant workers. To attract those workers, employers use active recruitment strategy to obtain workers already in the labor market or abroad through employment agency in the respective countries. Recruitment of immigration workers could be regarded as the result of companies to maintain their competitive edge by reducing labor costs, which is the highest input in the charge of production in UK. Based on the cost and CRC, migration has plunged gap in the labor market and sustained the deliveries of key public service. In late 2003, there were about 0.7 million unfilled vacancies in UK, which indicate how many British businesses would have struggled to survive without migration workers, being forced either to offshore or to shrink their business. Moreover, the thousands of jobs created by migrant entrepreneurs or the numbers of migrant workers needed to boost British shrinking working-age population. As a result, even though some people worried about the arrival of migrant workers will impact on wages or unemployment for the local workers, the government studies suggest that there are more benefits than the negative influence. A recent evidence from Pollard reveals that around half of A8 migrants who have arrived in UK since 2004 has already left. There also happened in the overseas student. To my personal experience, some of overseas students prefer to return to their hometown rather than stay in UK after graduation. Take myself as example. Because post-study worker visa has been cancelled, the stress for the international student will increase. In the meantime, the economy in China grows rapidly. Therefore, it offers more and better opportunity for me in China in the future. Now I'll pass to my partner Leo talk about the youth employment in details.
After we did a bit of research, we found that one of the biggest problems that economic migration can cause is indigenous youth employment issue. Most employers in the UK consider individuals who have a work and skills experience, such as Rolls-Royce, Bentley, or British Telecom, that offer internship courses that take youth with outstanding education qualifications and integrate them into full employment. The apprenticeship program and the enterprising are mainly to ensure that every young person is engaged in something resourceful to avoid the dangers of idleness, such as unwanted pregnancies, crime, and drug dealing. As a result, this will assist the fresh college and the university students to gain expertise and experience so much needed by the employers, and also ensures that they are flexible to work in any job or position. However, the transition of students from college to employment world is still very crucial as it determines the rest of individual's life. The UK government has addressed the challenge by apprenticeship programs and encouraging enterprising. The difficulty is that the UK government has not met its promise as young people are facing the problem of lack available apprenticeship places. Very few opportunities for progression after the apprenticeship and its courses are insufficient, not offering the adequate skills and experience required to become a skilled worker. As mentioned before, the transition is still very challenging to the youth due to uncertainty in the employment world. Also, it is difficult for young people to compete with migrant workers because they are often freshly from college and lack experience, skills, and social network. As a result, because of the difficulties and issues above, immigrant workers make weakness of youth prominent when fighting their job opportunities, and they are an excellent choice for employers because they are the best representation of good workers regarding skills and work ethics. Analytical review of economic migration. Migrant workers are preferred by the employers because they can work for long hours as compared to citizens in a nation. On the other hand, they are more competitive because of their vulnerability. That is, in most of the times, they do not understand the work process of the company they work with, which is an added advantage to the employer. However, unlike indigenous workers, employers agree that they are slow and the cost of ownership is expensive as compared to working with home employees. In addition, other unique benefits from migrants to the organizations include expansion and growth into the new markets, strengthening client relationship into new demands and even board, helping with the business activities using local UK connections. Migrant workers do not entirely buy into the good worker rhetoric because of the high skills required by the employers, segmentation of migrant workers in organizations, bullying, discrimination, and the strategies that employers use to recruit them. For example, I have been an internship in Bosch, Shanghai, China. It is a German company which has certain language requirements for the employees. So I have many European colleagues who are fluent German speakers. That is, migrants who knows German are more likely to be hired than local workers with equal academic backgrounds in order to communicate with the headquarters better. This can be seen as an advantage of migrant workers. Also, this will definitely deduct job opportunities for potential Chinese employees. Now we are going to talk about Brexit.
I would like to introduce Brexit, which is the abbreviation for British exit from EU. The Brexit referendum was held on Thursday, 23 June 2016, and it is a vote which everyone of voting age can take part to decide whether UK should leave or remain in the EU. The Brexit influences many aspects, such as economy. Brexit caused the British pound fell to its lowest level against the dollar in 30 years. However, I will focus on the impact of Brexit on migration. According to the two graphs, the EU migrants decrease and the non-EU migrants increase since the Brexit referendum. Meanwhile, the main reason of EU migrants for migration is work, and the main reason of non-EU migrants is study. The British government is planning to stop EU citizens from being able to live and work in UK without visa requirements in March 2019. However, the problem with stopping the freedom of movement for EU is the EU migrants account for a large share of jobs. The service sector, everything from retail to banking, is the lifeblood of Britain's economy, accounting for 80% of GDP. For example, even in the UK National Health Service, EU migrants account for 10% of doctors and 4% of nurses. Around 10,000 EU nationals have quit the NHS since the Brexit referendum. Not only the EU citizens' migration affected by Brexit, but also the non-EU citizens. The non-EU migrants increased because the UK pound devalued. Therefore, the non-EU migrants can cost less money to emigrate. In my experience, Brexit stopped the migration of both EU citizens and non-EU citizens. Many of my classmates think the migration controlled by UK is a regional protectionist. They are worried about unfair treatment in the work condition. Therefore, they start to rethink whether leave or remain in UK after graduation. All in all, one of the biggest problems that economic migration can cause is employment issue. Moreover, hiring the best workers ensures that production and the service improves. In most cases, the migrants' skill and expertise are over what is required. This makes it possible for employers to select the best candidates on a broader pool of talents. The primary goal of migrants is to fill in the shortage of workers into organizations. However, lower wages paid to the migrant workers have caused redundancy in the youth and local workers in UK. Furthermore, UK wants to control EU migration through Brexit to protect local citizens. Although the UK economy will be shocked. Now we will answer these questions.
The first one, to what degrees do your experience suggest that policy change make an impact on the decisions of economic migrants? As I mentioned before, the cancellation of post-study worker visa will lead to a decrease of immigration rates. Same situation happened after the Brexit. Companies which willing to expand the European market will be influenced as well. Therefore, if the government of host countries focus in migrants of workers for positive economic impact, but not exploitation. The potential talented people would choose UK and help with the British economy.
Question 2. In your experience, do you feel that citizenship, nationality, or race is the most significant feature of the debate around economic migration? In my opinion, nationality is the most important effect of economic migration. I think the biggest advantage of migrant workers is language, which is always associated with nationality. For example, as I mentioned before, I've been an internship in Bosch. They have a certain language requirement for better communication to create efficiency. Another good example is Japanese shopping malls. Their shop assistants are usually Chinese because the most of the customers are Chinese. The reason of this is Japanese high-quality goods at low price are attracting them. What the Japanese malls do is they are hiring Chinese migrants as shop assistants so they can communicate better with customers, hence increase profitability. As a result, this might create indigenous unemployment, as migrant workers are more competitive in this case. Question 3.
Question 3. If you were making a decision about emigrating, what would be the most important factor to influence you? In my opinion, work is the most important factor to me. And Year 3 students, which means I will go to work after graduation. If our country has good work opportunities and the work fair, it is attractive to me. That's the end of our presentation.
Thank you.